Welcome back. In case you're just joining us, it's time for our second conversation. And in case you're just joining us, you missed the first half. Don't worry, we talked about tax, but now we're looking at the tech ecosystem. My guest is with me right here, Oluwatomi Ayorinde, Chief Executive Officer at CrowdForce. Welcome, Tomi.
Thank you very much.
I hope that suffices.
Yeah, that's fine.
Welcome
Thanks
to
for
the
having me
program.
here.
You're welcome. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Talk to me about your space. We see a lot of young people, and you're a young person, except I'm wrong.
Yeah, I'm young.
Perhaps appearance could also be deceptive sometimes.
I'm young.
You know, we see a lot of young people, especially in your sector, in the space right now. There's so much hype around tech. We're seeing a lot of tech startups even getting so much money from overseas and all of that. You see a lot of tech companies, even in agriculture, tech itself, tech in other sectors, trying to enhance other sectors. You're doing like, why are you doing like this? I'm speaking your language, isn't it?
Yeah.
Talk to me about why this, I don't want to call it sudden, but perhaps it's also sudden. You know, because they say, is it necessity is the mother of invention?
Yeah.
So talk to me about this space which you find yourself.
So I think it's a very interesting times for Nigeria as a whole, in the fact that there's a lot more youthful people coming into technology, believing that they can create a difference, right? It's not sudden, it's just that it's built over time, right? First, you can trace it back to when we started having more better internet infrastructure, which meant people were more exposed to what was happening out there, which means you could learn to be a developer all by yourself in your room, right? Which some of us did, right? We didn't go to any place to teach us, we just learned online, right? And then once you're exposed to that and you see what's happening out there, you don't need to travel, which means you can dream more and you can do more. That is, for me, one of the critical things that changed, right? And why you have a lot more tech startups rising now. And it only takes one person to do it, right? The rest follow up. And then you can't underestimate the hustle spirit we have in Nigeria. It's amazing. It's what's always set us apart everywhere we go, right? We want to, one person makes a difference, we also want to make a difference, right? And it's pretty exciting because I think it's just the beginning. We're not there yet.
So it's, the ecosystem, the tech ecosystem is still at its infancy, despite the developments that we're seeing around the area. Talking about Yaba Hub, talking about Abuja too, talking about perhaps some other hubs around the country, because a lot of those hubs have also produced, especially tech companies, because there are also tech companies now, tech companies that are doing well in different areas, even in the civil society, even in agriculture, and all of that. Yeah,
but I agree with you, it's still at its infancy, right? Because when you look at what other economies have done, right, we're just scratching the surface, right? We need to get to a point where it becomes very sexy to start a startup, right? And failure is not seen as how do I put it now? It's not seen as a bad thing per se, right? You're encouraged to try and grow. Till now, people still grow up thinking, okay, I finish from university, I get a job. We need to get to a point where people finish from university and feel, I want to start something. If it doesn't work, maybe I'll get a job for a while, and then maybe I'll try and start something again, right?
Of course, not everyone is built to be an entrepreneur.
Of course,
yeah,
of course.
Not everyone should be an entrepreneur.
Of course.
There are some people that will still do the 9-to-5 jobs, but I get what you're saying.
Of course, right? I think everybody goes on different tracks. Some people start the 9-to-5, they veer off. Some people rise up to the ladder, up to the top as fast as possible, right? But it opens a lot more opportunities for everyone when people do that.
What are the challenges facing you guys right now, especially in the tech ecosystem? You were actually telling me earlier you're into big data, you're into software development. What are the challenges facing you guys right now?
Okay. So the challenges they're not so different from the challenges that businesses have faced up until now. It's just the fact that we are battling with little resources, right, to grow this business to be more sustainable, which is the reason why you find us clamor for more assistance, right? First is access to capital, right? It's not enough compared to several other places. You can't grow a business without capital. You can keep telling an entrepreneur you should try and do something else, you should try and innovate and stuff, but you can't grow a business without capital. And we need more access to capital, more successful entrepreneurs who are willing to take a chance on the younger generation. We need better regulations, right? We need regulations. As a startup, in most cases, right, you're barely just making profit at the third year, right? And you have to file taxes and pay taxes almost every month. It's just not realistic.
And there's an increment.
There's an increment coming our way, right?
Yeah.
So it's just not realistic, right? There's also innovation, right? We need to be more open to innovation. Barriers to entry, like I play in fintech space, right? In order to play effectively, I need to get a license. To get a license, I need to raise money, right? It's taking me almost a year or two to achieve that, right? But imagine if there was some threshold that was set. You can start with this innovative idea, but you stay at this threshold. When you feel that you've achieved it and you want to scale it up, then you can think of going for the regulatory license. We can set things like that that can help out, right? And then we need to just protect our status. We need to protect our small businesses more. We need to be proud of them and protect them. We need, I look forward to a minister that runs round and tries to get them, number one, reduce, what do you call this thing, the documents you have to file to get a contract, right? We need to protect them. We need somebody who's advocating for them, right? And that's why things that I think are missing, because the also spirit is there, the technology is there.
Now let's speak about the new Minister of Communications. Are you inspired with of course, we can't begin to rate him now. Perhaps he's also trying to find his feet around the ministry. But what kind of agenda would you set for him, especially for those of you in the tech space?
So it's quite early, like you said. I would like to, what I would like to see him do, right, is what I've said, which is protect small businesses more, right? First is access to capital. There are other economies that have figured out a way to actually partner with the private sector to co-invest in startups, or they will match whatever a private investor has invested in a startup, right? Or some cases they would give a rebate for investing in a startup, right? I think that's important. Second is regulations. Let's find better ways to ensure that startups are not burdened, right, by normal things, taxes, tax incentives, focus on beauty, so that they can focus on building their products, right? It's not rocket science. Maybe the implementation might be complex, right? But when you create as much access to capital as possible, right? For example, if a business, you've started your business and you've started generating some sort of revenue, it shows that you're on a track record to getting somewhere. So at that point, there should be enough places where you can access capital to take it to the next level. And let's be clear, the business may not succeed. So don't let's assume that you only give money to businesses that you are 100% sure will succeed. You'll never know which one will succeed or not. But for the ones that succeed, right, they will be worth all the hassle that we went through. So I would say, if I can say, let's put our money where our mouth is, right? We already have a lot of foreign investors. Put in money.
I was coming to that,
Yeah.
even as we round up the program, that you see a lot of foreign investment into the tech space in Nigeria. A lot of young guys here that are into the tech industry attracting FX from abroad. What are they seeing that we're not seeing here?
Interesting question, right?
Yeah.
Interesting question. I think from their view, they see a vibrant country rising. We've already had, it might not be, I think it's super actually. We've already had Jumia starting from Nigeria and get into IPO, right? So they see, and they think long term. They see these things, right? And I think in Nigeria we see it, right? We just, for some reason, we just haven't seen more local investors investing.
Or is it because there's no money? or because there is no willingness, or because the political will is not also on that part? I'm trying to also analyze
To analyze it, right? It's interesting.
Or perhaps it's also an industry that has not been well understood.
I would say it's not well understood.
Yeah, because there are a lot of things happening in your industry. IoTs, AIs, a lot of things. So
yeah, I would say it's not well understood. Even investors need to understand the way foreign investors think when they invest, right? Jimmy has gone IPO, and when you look at the list of investors, I'm not sure there was any Nigerian or any African on it, right? Which means that some people thought 5-10 years ahead, invested, and now they've reaped benefits. The local investors also need to think that way. But if they keep thinking about investing now and getting that profit in the next 6 months, we can't. That's just not going to work. That's not going to work.
What would you tell your guys that are working in the same space as you are right now? Because you see a lot of young men and women too in the tech space, but there are a few women in the tech space, and we're encouraging more women to also go, yes, into the tech space. It's not only an industry for men.
Yes.
You know, what would you say to young people right now watching that are in your space? What should they hold on to, despite, the sky is not so bright?
Not so bright.
Or sometimes it depends on which angle that you're also looking at it. Because there are a lot of tech companies too that are also seemingly doing well. That's how they're like 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, and are doing well.
I would say keep the hustle going.
Keep the hustle.
Stay in your tight communities. We've got more ops than before now. Stay in those tight communities and stay strong. I think it's a phase, right? The more everyone starts to understand it, the more investment comes, the more it opens up, the more infrastructure opens up, right? One more thing we need to probably think around is the issue of identity, national identity. And the reason is because I think that there are more innovations now that are looking for ways to attack the informal sector. 95% of our transactions are not online. They're done through local retail stores, right? So we need to encourage startups that focus on that segment of the market.
So you're talking about fintech?
Yes, not just fintech, right? Even if it's logistics for that segment, consumer goods for that segment, right? Insurance for that segment, micro insurance for that segment of the market, because they need it, but the difference is they just need it in tiny. They can't buy the large sum, but if you break it down.
And I think the government is coming up, agencies of government responsible for that are doing that. PenCom is coming up with micro pension, NICOM micro insurance, a lot of things going micro now.
Exactly.
But we need to adequately go into that space very well and capture them.
And capture it.
Okay. Tommy, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
I hope we'll do this again sometime.
I look forward to it.
All right, I've been speaking with Oluwatomi Ayorinde, who is the Chief Executive Officer at CrowdForce. We've been talking about the tech ecosystem for the last 17 or 18 minutes or thereabout. Many thanks for joining us today. Be the best you can be the change that you want to see. I am Nnaji Nnaji.